We did it, folks. And by we, I mean all the organizers, all the other groups of Black women activists, Stacey Abrams, the people who did the actual work, and which has nothing to do with me. They just turned Georgia blue. Now, the tireless work of all these wonderful people just sent Kelly Loeffler and David Perdue packing, and Mitch McConnell into the minority, the thing that, of course, he hates being the most. All right. So now Warnock is the actually first Black person elected to represent Georgia in the Senate. Will be the only one of 3 Black people in the Senate. And once his term begins, Ossoff would be the youngest member of the Senate. John Ossoff is younger than I am. I am older than John Ossoff. Man, do I feel old. Holy shit. A little bit of millennial representation here. I just hope that it's progressive millennial representation. All right, so now Decision Desk HQ had projected Ossoff to win. I think that's now official. And then, of course, you had Warnock that was called earlier today, or was it last night? I believe it was last night. But now Georgia officials are still, counting the remaining votes, but it's enough to where Ossoff and Warnock are going to the Senate. So now it appears that Black women just saved us from Mitch McConnell, and specifically from him stonewalling us for the next 4 years, which is nice. It's almost as if progressive women of color are the backbone of the Democratic Party or something, and maybe the party should focus on, improving the material conditions of that group, as well as others. The same. But we're going to see if that happens, because there are obviously some hurdles here. Because what would happen is that the Senate will have a 50-50 split, right? So you've got Vice President-elect Kamala Harris that will serve as a tiebreak vote. Now, Mitch McConnell could still do things to block it, to require 60 votes for basically anything. And of course, in order to fight against that, well, he would have to blow up the filibuster. So there's a couple of things they could do: blow up the filibuster, as I said, or pass things through budget reconciliation. So that would make sure that certain things that qualify for budget reconciliation are able to get by with a simple majority. Now, the problem with that, of course, is that a simple majority is not guaranteed, because guess what? You have liberals, so-called liberals, Democrats, like Doug Jones and, well, Joe Manchin. So again, Mitch McConnell is minority leader. That gives Democrats control of the government. And so they're going to have a much harder time, and this is the best part, they're going to have a much harder time blaming Republicans for things not getting done, because I just laid out several ways that Democrats could be able to get around Republican blockage of bills. Like, for example, stimulus, right? There's no reason that Biden couldn't pass a $2,000 stimulus checks once he gets into power. I mean, that's extremely popular. Even Kelly Loeffler and David Perdue ran on this. They agreed with it. And so the thing is that presents a problem for Democrats. If they don't do it, they've got no one to blame but themselves. More specifically, as I mentioned, conservative Democrats like Joe Manchin and Doug Jones. Now, you guys remember that the entire GOP strategy in this race, in this runoff, was socialism bad, lefties bad, radical liberals. But none of that mattered to the voters. The voters were like, well, look, Warnock and Ossoff, well, they want to improve the material conditions of us during a pandemic, of the American people. Yeah, I'm going to vote for that. I'm not going to vote for the party, for Mitch McConnell's, for Mitch McConnell to stay in control of the Senate and not do $2,000 stimulus checks. And, Warnock and Ossoff, to give them credit, they ran on this. They took it and they ran. They did not run on Orange Man bad. They ran on civil rights, voting rights, and stimulus checks. That kind of proves that progressives couldn't be positioned any better to make our case to the public than right now. All right. Again, Donald Trump is leaving, but coronavirus is still here. People need relief more than ever. To not give aid to the people with control of the government would be a monumental failure to act on anything and everything that was promised if Democrats got into power. And progressives, we need to be ready to be the alternative, right? Because look, you can't blame McConnell anymore. You can't say, oh, you know, Mitch McConnell, they blocked their checks. No, it was Joe Manchin that blocked your checks. So guess what? Let's primary Joe Manchin. Guess what? I happen to know somebody, Paula Jean Swearingen. She's a real progressive who would actually fight for that stuff. This would be both the Democrats' greatest opportunity and biggest nightmare, because now they'll actually be expected to do something for the American people. And if they don't, well, they got no one else to blame. And we can primary them because guess what? All eyes are on the Democrats right now. Make no mistake, this is actually bad for the establishment. Rhetorically, it's also amazing for us because now we've just eliminated their best talking point for an inaction. It's gone now. Gone. What about Trump, though? What about Mitch? Trump's gone. Mitch is the minority. He's minority Mitch now. All right? And so, not anymore. You cannot say we can't do anything because of Republicans. Not anymore. Not anymore. Guess what? It's our time. All right? And we need to hold Democrats to account if and when they fail to do what they promised to do. Now, Joe Biden did recently come out and said earlier today, yeah, well, that's one of our first priorities is getting out those stimulus checks. But there's always caveats to it. Joe Biden did not give an exact figure and said, well, you know, I'm in favor of that, but I don't know what we're going to ultimately decide on. So there is always a possibility for Democrats to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. That said, right, if they do happen to do that, then we need to have primary challengers at the ready, funded, and with a messaging machine, as well as a volunteer base at their back and ready, so that the establishment, the Democrats, can no longer hide behind Republican obstruction. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a like and share with your friends. You can subscribe and help out the channel by becoming a patron. It's patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf, or you can become a channel member as well by hitting the join button below.